everybody, this is Ogre Boy, and I'm going to be doing my top 10 favorite comedy movies of the 2000s. This decade was a really good decade for comedy movies, and there are going to be a lot of movies on here that I wish I could have fit on here and everything, but I decided to do 10 of my most favorites and everything. So before I get into this, I would like to give my honorable mentions. Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers. I love both of those movies. I just couldn't fit them on here. Tropic Thunder, Pineapple Express, Zack and Mary Make a Porno, and go ahead and throw in Shrek because it's a family comedy, but I didn't add it on this list. I almost did, but I decided to wait. And Austin Powers and Goldmember. Those are the main ones. If I think of any more, I'll give more honorable mentions at the end of the video. Oh yeah, and one more real quick, to unintentional comedy, the Room from Tommy Wiseau. That movie is absolutely hilarious. It's not meant to be, but he honestly thought he was making a serious movie and everything, but it's one of the funniest movies of the decade as well, so I want to give that an honorable mention. And so I'll go ahead and get started. My number 10 favorite comedy movie of the 2000s is Thanksgiving. This is a movie that I was introduced to this year thanks to Derek from Derek's Horror Corner. He talked me into watching it, and I love this movie. It's just absolutely hilarious from start to finish. The acting in here is really bad, but I think the way that this movie was made, I think they were really trying to make it this way. I think it was fully an intentional horror comedy with bad acting and dialogue and stuff, and really random things that happen in here, like the song that the guy sings about his best friend, and it's just really random stuff that makes this movie so hilarious. And Turkey is one of the funniest characters and everything. I absolutely love Turkey in this one. And so this is definitely one of the best comedy movies from the 2000s, and it's a really great horror comedy. It might even be my favorite horror comedy of all time now, after that one and the Return of the Living Dead movies, I mean. But this one just was absolutely hilarious, and if you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend it. It is kind of dumb, but that's what makes it so good and so funny, is it's knows what it's trying to be, and it does it perfectly. So Thanksgiving is number 10, and number 9 is The Simpsons movie. When I went to see this movie in the theaters, I was kind of a fan. I liked The Simpsons, but I wasn't like a huge fan and everything, but I did like it and everything. I watched it almost every day as a kid and everything. So I went in here expecting this one just to be an alright movie and everything. I didn't expect to like it near as much as I did. In fact, it put me through this whole Simpsons phase that I went through for quite a while after this movie came out. I would come home from school and make sure I watched it every day after school. I would check out the comic books and stuff from the library, or check out the DVDs if they had any of at the library. I think they only did maybe a couple of the Treehouse of Horror DVDs, but I was obsessed with The Simpsons for a while after this movie, and personally I feel like this would have been a really, really good way to end not the franchise, but the TV show. I think it would have been a great and fitting ending to the series and everything. I haven't really watched it as much in recent years. I've watched it a few times, and it seems like the quality just isn't as good on The Simpsons as it used to be, but I do still love this movie. Every time I watch it, it has me cracking up. Homer is absolutely hilarious, and there's a lot of really good jokes and stuff in this movie, and I really do like it a lot. So The Simpsons movie is number 9, and number 8 is Clerks 2, directed by Kevin Smith. This was the sequel to his 1994 movie Clerks, and I thought this was a very, very good sequel. I think it's actually one of his most underrated movies because it has a lot of really great jokes and everything. I actually felt I liked this movie more than the first one and everything, which I know I'm probably one of very few that do, but to me, the jokes in here are just a lot better. I love like the dialogue and the conversation of between them and the debating on which one's better out of the Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, and like when the guy says there's only one return and it's of the Jedi, not the King. That's one of my favorite lines in the whole movie. I've actually repeated that quite a few times on different Facebook posts and stuff, just to joke around with the Lord of the Rings fans and see if they catch the reference. But because I do love both Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, I don't really hate either one. But I just like whenever I'm debating, I always go for Star Wars because that's my favorite out of the two. But Clerks 2 is just a really, really funny movie. I do feel like Jay and Silent Bob weren't quite as funny in this movie as they are the other ones, but it doesn't really bother me because I like that we actually get to spend more time with the main characters of the first Clerks movie again and everything. I really liked that and everything. So Clerks 2 is number 8, and number 7 is Wild Hogs. Now this movie I know a lot of people don't like, or it didn't do very good with critics and everything, and I went to see this movie in the theaters and I just absolutely love it. It's not really anything special, but it's just a fun buddy road trip movie, and all of the 4 main actors have really great chemistry. Tim Allen, John Travolta, Martin Lawrence, and William H. Macy. All of them have really, really good chemistry together, and there's just William H. Macy, though, he steals the show. He's absolutely hilarious in this movie, and this has some really funny one-liner or jokes and stuff that I've repeated many times before, like the part when they're fighting with these other bikers and stuff, and they're getting beat up and everything, and well, each of them have like some kind of inspirational saying, and when it gets to William H. Macy, he says, "I've got a girlfriend, punch that out of me, bitches," and they just punch him in the face. That scene always cracks me up. And then the part where they're talking, and William H. Macy is pooped in a bag, and he says he's gonna go hang it in a tree, and John Travolta's like, "Don't hang it in a tree." He's like, "Well, I don't want the bears to get it," and he said, and everything, and John Travolta's like, "Well, bears don't eat shit," and just the way he says it, it cracks me up every time I watch it and everything. I just absolutely love Wild Hogs. It's very underrated comedy. So it's number 7 for me, and number 6 is Anger Management, starring Adam Sandler. I debated on whether to put this one or 50 First Dates, because 50 First Dates is probably my favorite movie he did in that decade and everything, but I decided to go with Anger Management because it's more of a straightforward comedy and not a romantic comedy, because I might do a romantic comedy list or something later down the line, but I absolutely love Anger Management. The chemistry between Adam Sandler and Jack Nicholson is really good, which is kind of surprising. I mean, seeing that you wouldn't expect Adam Sandler and Jack Nicholson to work really good together, but they do. Jack Nicholson is hilarious. He gets all of the best lines in this movie, though. One of my favorite parts in this movie is when they go to the monk place, and John C. Reilly's one of the monks, and Jack Nicholson's acting like he has a gun, and he ends up spraying one of them, and it's like a water gun that looks like a real gun, and they chase him out of there. That scene is absolutely hilarious. And another one of my favorite parts is when Adam Sandler's character makes some eggs for Jack Nicholson's character, and they're not the way he wanted them, and he throws the plate at him and says, "I said over easy." And that part always cracked me up too, and it's just such a funny movie, and really an underrated Adam Sandler movie. I think this is one of his better movies and everything. So Anger Management is number 6, and number 5 is The 40-Year-Old Virgin. This is another one that's just absolutely hilarious. And this movie was the one that pretty much introduced me to Judd Apatow and Seth Rogen and all of the crew. Pretty much all the people that work on this movie worked on a lot of Judd Apatow's other movies, and pretty much every movie on this list up to this from this point on are going to have some kind of involvement from Judd Apatow, because he made the best comedy movies of the 2000s, I'm not gonna lie. But the 40-Year-Old Virgin is just absolutely hilarious, and I think that it also has a really good message too, like that you should wait to have sex till you're married and stuff. I think that it tries to have like a good message, but at the same time it's raunchy and it's hilarious. There's so many jokes in this movie that just had me dying laughing. I think my favorite part is when he's getting waxed and everything, because it makes you cringe, because you know that crap has to hurt really bad, especially knowing that he's actually getting the waxes done when they were filming those scenes. Just makes it even better. And my favorite part though, because he says all kinds of funny stuff every time she does the waxing on him, and my favorite one is when he says, "Oh, Kelly Clarkson." It just because it comes out of nowhere, it doesn't really make any sense. It just cracks me up. And also, there are just so many great, hilarious moments in this movie. But I just absolutely love the 40-Year-Old Virgin. So it's number 5, and number 4 is Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I went to see this movie in the movie theater, and I didn't really know what to expect, if I didn't even know if I would even like it, because I went in there blindly. The only thing I knew about the movie was that it said that it was from Judd Apatow as a producer on there, so I went in there just because of the fact that it had him as a producer, and I absolutely love this movie. This movie is just absolutely hilarious and everything. The only thing I have to say that I didn't really like about it is I could have lived without having to see Jason Segel's little Muppet. That was going a little too far, but besides that, the rest of the movie was great. Jason Segel was hilarious in this movie and everything, and like the way he's all emotional and stuff when his girlfriend breaks up with him and stuff is really hilarious and everything, and it makes me laugh at myself because I've acted like he did when one of my girlfriends broke up with me a long time ago, except I wasn't naked and everything. But it makes me laugh at myself because the character really reminded me of myself at that time. And Mila Kunis is great in this. I think this is probably one of my favorite movies that she's in, and one of my favorite performances of hers that's not from that 70s show. And I think this was like the first big movie she did after that 70s show ended, and I thought she was really good in it. Kristen Bell was really good in it. This was the first movie I ever saw that she was in. Speaking of Kristen Bell, I'll go ahead and give an honorable mention to another movie that she's in while I'm remembering, Fanboys, which is about a group of Star Wars fans wanting to steal a copy of the Phantom Menace. That movie is just really good too. I just wanted to give that an honorable mention before I forgot it. But yeah, I absolutely love Forgetting Sarah Marshall. It's a great movie. The whole cast is really good. The only person in there that I'm not too crazy for in it was Russell Brand, but in this movie I liked him because he's not like a huge part in it, so he didn't really bother me. But I've noticed in movies where he's the starring role, he kind of gets on my nerves. But I do love him in this movie, and I just really like Forgetting Sarah Marshall. So it's number 4, and number 3 is Knocked Up, once again, directed by Judd Apatow. This movie is just absolutely hilarious. This one, now, I know I said that I was trying to keep romantic comedies off the list, and this one does qualify as one, but I couldn't not include this movie, though, because even though it does have the romantic stuff in here, it also has the buddy stuff, too. This movie feels like it's made for both men and women to enjoy and everything, because you got the romantic stuff that the women enjoy, the buddy stuff the guys enjoy, and it's just very, very well written and everything. I absolutely love Knocked Up. Seth Rogen is absolutely hilarious, and the chemistry between him and Katherine Heigl was actually pretty good, even though I know she didn't like this movie and everything. She talked bad about it after making it and stuff. I think that was a pretty dumb decision. Why did you do it if you didn't like it? But they're both really good together in this movie, and Leslie Mann and Paul Rudd were great. They were actually so good in here, they got their own spin-off movie, This Is 40, which was pretty good, but that one was more of a drama than a comedy. But it was still pretty good. And the whole supporting cast, Jonah Hill, Jay Baruchel, Martin Starr, Jason Segel, all of them were great. And it was awesome getting to see all of these people that started out in Judd Apatow's TV shows, Freaks and Geeks and Undeclared, working together again. And this was just a really great movie. And one of my favorite parts is when the guys are talking about him saying Jonah Hill's like saying that he needs to get an abortion, and Jay is telling him that he thinks he should have it. And he says, I think you should have it. I'll be there to support you. I'll be there to rear your child. And Jason Segel says, you hear that? You might want to keep him away from your kid because he wants to rear your child. Every time I see that scene, I about die laughing. It's just absolutely hilarious. So, Knocked Up is number 3. I mean, Knocked Up is number 3, and number 2 is Superbad. This movie is just absolutely hilarious. It almost made my number 1, but I really had to think between this one and the one that I put at number 1. I just absolutely love it. The humor in here is smartly written very well by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, and this is pretty much like a somewhat of a autobiography movie about them. In fact, Jonah Hill pretty much plays Seth Rogen, and Michael Cera plays Evan Goldberg, and a lot of the stuff that happens in the movie they said happened in real life. Some of it they changed a little bit, of course, but this movie just was, it's hilarious. There's so many great jokes in here. I think every time I watch this movie, there's some kind of joke that I didn't catch before that I catch later, and everything. It's just a really, really good movie, and easily one of the best high school movies I've ever seen too, as well. And it was the last really good teen comedy that I had seen for a long time, until I think Booksmart was the one that I enjoyed the most since then. But Superbad is just a really great movie and everything. So it's number 2, and number 1 is Step Brothers. This is easily one of my favorite comedy movies of all time. It's actually probably my 3rd favorite after Mrs. Doubtfire and The Jerk. I just absolutely love Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly together. They're absolutely hilarious. There's so many great moments in this movie that I just absolutely love. So many great lines, like, I'm not calling him Dad even if there's a fire. Did we just become best friends? I'm going to put my nutsack on your drum set. When he's watching TV and he's sweating, and he's like, why are you sweating? He said, I was watching Cops. There's just so many great things about it. And the song that I feel like got really snubbed by the Oscars, Boats and Hoes, just a hilarious song and everything. I think it should have gotten an Oscar nomination that year and everything. And personally, if it was up to me, I probably would have let it win too. But I just absolutely love Step Brothers. It's just a really great movie. And once again, it was one that was produced by Judd Apatow, and I was already interested in seeing it because to me, the trailers looked really good and everything. And this movie is the movie that really made me become the big fan of Will Ferrell that I am now, because I saw after seeing this movie, I went back and watched all of his other movies, and I've been a huge fan of Will Ferrell ever since I saw this movie and everything. I liked him when I saw Elf and everything, but I didn't really start getting into his other movies until I saw this one and everything. And it's just a great movie, and if they ever do Step Brothers 2, it's going to have a whole lot to live up to. I kind of hope they never do, in a way, but this is easily my favorite comedy movie of the 2000s. I also want to give honorable mentions to Talladega Nights and Anchorman and Blades of Glory, all 3 Will Ferrell movies that I really enjoyed a lot, and of course Elf. I love all 4 of those a lot too, but I decided just to keep one Will Ferrell movie on this list, so that's why. And Land of the Lost, which I think is very underrated. But anyway, let me know in the comments what your favorite comedy movies from the 2000s is. If you want to tell me your top 10, that'd be cool too. But let me know in the comments what your favorites are, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day, everybody.
This is the song that doesn't end. Yes, it goes on and on, my friend.
That's enough, guys.
Some people started singing it, not knowing what it was, and they'll continue singing it forever just because this is the song that